So risk management is plays an important role in cybersecurity awareness. And every time you do risk management, you need to have an inventory first. And that's why NetBox came. NetBox is a great tool for inventory management as a network source of truth. So I try to bring together the risk management process that is described by NIST 830 with NetBox inventory. So let's jump in. A little disclaimer. What's the idea when you're building some risk management? The first thing, you need to characterize your system by hardware, software, whatever thing you want to map vulnerabilities and try to map risks on it. And for NBRisk, I try to make it very flexible. So when you implement the plugin, you can choose whatever kind of model of NetBox you want. You can assign risk to platforms, assign risk to devices, and whatever model you please. So for example, when you have my instance of NetBox, you have the risk assessment plugin, and you can create vulnerabilities. But you can simply go and add and describe your vulnerability the way you want, or you can use the NIST CVE API. So you can go in filters, and let's say you have FortiWeb at 6.10 and certs. And it goes to NIST CVE APIs and get all the nosy vulnerabilities for the device. And then can just pop up and create that vulnerability. Now that you have that vulnerability created, right now I haven't assigned it to any asset, but I can go into devices, go in device, select whenever device I want. Let's pick this one. And you can assign the vulnerability. List of our vulnerabilities. When you assign a vulnerability to the device, you have a new tab to the device view that you can check all of its vulnerabilities. You can go into our risk assessment vulnerabilities. You see how many affected assets. Go into the vulnerability and see all your devices right here. But the process comes from threat identification. And that's so the plugin allows you to map threat sources. Let's say I want to add some backups. As a threat source, you can describe the intent of the source, the target, and descriptions and notes. Create it. You can create threat events tied to your vulnerabilities. Describe what the kind of event that's happening when, yes, that slide is a better description of the process. You have a threat source that initiates an event that exploits some vulnerabilities with predisposing conditions. You can plan and implement security controls that cause an impact and generates organizational risk. That's the base from how I model the NBRisk models, how I create the models. So when we go to a threat event, let's say password leak from packets. What kind of vulnerability these events are exploiting? Let's say it's exploiting the vulnerability from this device with this CV as assignment, and then can create what impact. And then you create your threat events that are exploiting these vulnerabilities from these assets. That's going to be listing all of your assets and vulnerabilities. Once you have your threat source and vulnerabilities, you can create threat source, threat event vulnerabilities. You can create your risks. So let's say have a list of data loss tied to the event password leak, likelihood and level of impact of that risk. Okay, And you can also create controls for that risks. So you may add a control like password rotation and tie it to any risks you want. Okay. When you create that control, you can use your journal to keep tracking whatever actions you do about that control. You have all of the related assets tied to that control and no risk that control is trying to mitigate. I guess I will go through all of the device, and basically that's what the script's doing. I'm trying to work to get a better assignment of models. Right now, you can't do bulk assignments. That's something I would like to add into the plugin to the future, because right now you need to go to each desired device, let's say not this one, and need to assign manually each vulnerability to each device. That can be a little boring. And once you assign the vulnerability, and now all your controls. That event. That the event is exploiting only one vulnerability. You should add another one. Another control. To show all the related assets tied to that vulnerability. Well, following this step, you can map your threads. You can identify and search in your vulnerabilities based on your devices. You can create controls and see how affected assets for that control and what vulnerabilities it's trying to mitigate. Create your risks and see your controls again. Well, I guess that's it. I had to show about the plugin. I don't know if I have filters. Vulnerability. Okay. The vulnerability you can search from the device types or based in the CPE names, that kind of string. So if you copy that and paste in CPE name, you should get all their vulnerabilities. Let's get another one. Oh, that's in line. Okay, let's go for this one. Okay, and then you have your vulnerability search by the CPE name, and you can create it if you want.
Wow, that is quite nice. I can't count the number of times where I've had an internal pen test or vulnerability analysis done and have just been fed back a spreadsheet filled with information. The fact that you're thinking ahead to be able to correlate those to the devices in the place where we're already tracking our hardware is really phenomenal.
I guess that's the idea of the AI is still in a beta state, so have lots of things to add to make it. But if anyone would like to add some comments, something like, for example, when I create controls, right now I'm using description, notes, category, and risk. I can add another kind of fields here before we go for indeed a release. Risk, the same thing. I can also work into the fields you have and trying to make it better too.
Well, I mean, this is so far, this is great. I remember when you showed me the very first beta version of this, which I can't remember how many months ago this was at this point, yeah. and started to think ahead. Like, I cannot wait to see where you go with this. And this is This is going to be great for, well, security groups and really groups that don't have security groups as well. Like this is going to be wonderful for really for everyone who's concerned about security, which I think is just about everyone these days.
Yeah.
Awesome.
In the future, you can think in, right now, the vulnerability search isn't tied to an API. It doesn't create an API for do an API call. I don't think that's make much sense. But you could make some custom script or something that goes into your device types and versions, gather the available CVEs and tie to the device and create your risks and vulnerabilities and everything else.
Oh, then we're really having fun when we start making those correlations.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's go ahead. I'm assuming there's going to be some questions. Let's hold on to questions for just a moment. Let me wrap things up, and then we'll open the floor for more questions for all the presenters. Thank you so much, though, Renato, for that. That was absolutely marvelous. So as we do close down here, we're going to share a link for a survey in the chat here. That was just a quick survey about the session today. It'll only take you a minute or so to fill out. So when that pops through, if you could take a minute or two before we close down, fill that out, we would definitely appreciate it. There's that link. Sorry, Maggie, I should have given you a heads up that I was going to pivot into that. Thank you for getting that up there so quickly. So really, thanks to our presenters. These events continue to be successful because of that participation, because of the work that you're doing out there in the fields. If anyone out there would like to be a presenter in the future, you can follow us on our socials and we'll have ways to communicate that back at us. You can tweet at us. I believe we have a form that you can fill out as well. But keep in mind that you don't need to be a plugin developer or an application developer or anything like that to be part of these presentations. If you have a fun way of using NetBox that you'd like to show off a bit, just a different way of thinking about how you can model the cloud or different environments inside of NetBox, we're always looking to have people come on and really just have a fun conversation like we did today. So thank you, Alex, Kenneth, and Renato for being part of that. Also, I'd like to call out Rodrigo Magnari. He's been doing a lot of work prototyping the workflow modeling in NetBox. Jeremy, if you have a second, can you color in those lines a little bit for me? I'm not 100% certain what he's been up to.
I apologize. I didn't prepare notes on that for this meeting, but I haven't been keeping super close tabs on him, unfortunately, with the 3.5 stuff coming up. But yeah, he's been very, very busy, and he's already done a ton of work on that, and that's something we're looking as we move toward our 3.6 planning now, as we transition to the second release for the year. That'll be front and center, and seeing what we can do to get that built into NetBox as well.
Awesome. Thank you. I started to throw you on the spot.
No worries.
Cool. All right. So that wraps up our official agenda. Thank you for attending. Presenters, I ask that you hang around. If anyone has any questions for them that you weren't able to get out, either in voice or text, this would be a great opportunity to do so.
While we are waiting, I can show how the Cisco Modeling Lab import works.
Sure.
All right, let me just do that really quick. Share. Okay, as if you can see now, the CML interface should be working. I'm gonna import that file over here. All right, success. And here is the lab with all the interfaces between the nodes and so forth. Yep, I'm gonna launch it. It's gonna take a while, but you can see it's working. All right, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming back and showing that off.